Hello folks, back with some more car news for you. We're starting off with Autocar and then we're moving on to AutoExpress. First story here, EVs are eligible for the £3,750 grant to be confirmed on the 11th of August. Around a third of electric cars currently on sale in the UK are expected to qualify. It's quite a complex mechanism by the looks of things. It's going to be based on basically a sustainability score, how environmentally friendly the manufacturing process was, all kinds of different things. But look at this next story. Car makers can self-register EVs and get paid the government grant. Loopholes in the UK's new electric car grant could also unnecessarily boost fleet sales. The reason manufacturers might do this is A, just to grab the grant as quickly as possible, but B, if they pre-register loads of cars, they're getting the grant and they also will meet those zero emissions mandate targets, or it will help them to meet those targets. That's not necessarily a bad thing for the consumer, because it might be that there'll be more and more cars available on the cheap, as you'll see in my new car discounts videos. But you're then buying a car that's already had an owner because the car's been pre-registered. We're saying they'll be doing this with demonstrators, even with the press fleet, some of them. And really, this is a version of what I expected to happen actually happening already, which is that grant going into the hands of the dealerships or manufacturers instead of to the consumers. Why they didn't do something to help used EV sales, I don't know, because that would have helped everyone. If you haven't seen my video about the EV grants, go and check it out. I'll link to it at the end of this one, actually, because I think it's worth a watch, and I don't think this is all it's cracked up to be. Justy returns. Subaru molds small electric car to rival the Renault 5. Affordable hatchbacks under construction could be twinned with Toyota's mooted electric Yaris. That could be quite interesting. I think we've got another Subaru story coming up a bit later on. UK car manufacturing hits lowest point in 72 years. Excluding COVID hit 2020, the first half of 2025 was the worst for UK car factories since 1953. Closure of Stellantis' Luton factory played a significant role in the decline, and I dare say some of the tariffs flying around haven't helped massively. We need to do more to attract these companies to come and invest here, so we have manufacturing jobs in the UK again, even if they are foreign companies. We don't care. The Jaecoo 5 Land Rover Evoque rival is due imminently priced from £24,500. The crossover joins the larger 7 as the second car in Cherry-owned Jaecoo's lineup, and it will get ICE and EV variants, but initially it's just going to be a 1.6 petrol. I went up the hill in Goodwood in that very car there, and that might be me in it, I don't know. And obviously I didn't get to drive it. It's not the quickest car in the world by any means, but it was pretty impressive, very nicely trimmed, build quality all felt very good, certainly on the interior. And I've been largely impressed by the Omoda Jaecoo cars so far, so it'd be nice to get a driver one when it comes out. It's going to have a 13.2-inch vertical touchscreen, wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all-round parking cameras. That to me is probably more of a rival to something like the Nissan Qashqai than it is to a Range Rover Evoque, simply because Evoque buyers are often buying because of the badge or the way the car looks. It's that prestige thing that goes with it, and I don't think any of that will apply to the Jaecoo 5, but there will be people that are looking at one of these and then comparing, you know, a Qashqai, for example, or that level of car, and thinking, well, this one's cheaper, it's a little bit better equipped, is it worth a look? And I think that's probably where the key for some of these brands lies. UK firm reveals next-gen adaptive suspension for mainstream cars. Clear Motion's fully active suspension promises a generational leap in comfort, and we get first taste. Autocar, that is. I'm not going to go into this in granular detail, but if you're in any way interested by that, go and have a further read up. I've seen some videos of this next-gen adaptive suspension in practice, and it looks bananas. Absolutely crazy. It looks like you can throw most undulations in the road under one of these things and it just stays flat. So very, very impressive, and I look forward to seeing that when it comes out. Right, this one's annoying. Airport drop-off price rises to hit holiday makers. My local airport, Bournemouth, Used to be free to drop people off. I think you got 20 minutes or something to do a drop off or a pickup. They then put it up to a couple of quid. Last year it was a fiver. I think it's now going up to £6 to drop someone off. And all it means is people start getting dropped off and picked up on main roads and stuff just to avoid paying it. It sounds daft, but that's what happens. Perhaps the most heinous charge in the UK is at Manchester Airport, which charges £5 to use its drop-off areas. This might sound like a bargain compared to other airports, and it doesn't represent an increase over 2024, but Manchester Airport only allows drivers to stay for 5 minutes. This means that using the drop-off area costs as much as £1 a minute. If you plan to stay longer, Manchester will charge £6.40 for 10 minutes and an eye-watering £25 for half an hour. And here's a list of all those charges. London Stansted, £7 for 15 minutes, so it's 47p a minute. Leeds Bradford, £6.50 for 10 minutes. And there you go, and they've all gone up pretty much. Most of them have gone up. It's just all a bit of a con, isn't it? Stellantis says no to hydrogen hype. They've completely pulled the plug on their hydrogen project. It was their Hydrogen Pro 1 fuel cell van project. They've pulled the plug on that. And they've basically said that for the time being, they consider hybrid technology and full EV, battery EV technology to be the way forward rather than hydrogen EV. I've said it for a long time. Hydrogen at the moment looks like a very inefficient and costly way to power passenger cars and possibly vans, but I can certainly see some other uses for it in future. But Stellantis are one of the first mainstream manufacturers to say no. A new Tesla Model Y L 6-seater leaked in China. So these are the leaked images. L seemingly means long wheelbase. It only goes up by about 40 mil by the looks of it, but that would give you 2 seats up front, 2 in the middle and 2 in the back row. In some markets, of course, you could get a 7-seat version of the old Model Y, but it seems like the 6-seat idea might be the winner going forwards. I don't know whether we'll get this in the UK. I have to think there's a market for it. It's just whether people think that with the amount of boot space you lose, it might be a compromise too far. I don't know why people are not doing people carriers anymore. They really did serve a market that's now completely underserved, I think. Anyway, there's more news on that if it happens. Folks, just a very quick reminder to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Thanks. BMW M5 Neue Klasse testing heats up at the Nürburgring. These look phenomenal, these Neue Klasse BMWs. I can't wait to see the final production versions of the car. Testing that at the Nürburgring at the moment, so get ready for the fastest lap record at the Nürburgring has been set, which seems to happen about every 12 minutes. 500 job losses at Jaguar Land Rover. Disappointing, says the government. A voluntary redundancy scheme will see 500 managerial positions cut at Jaguar Land Rover. They're saying this is largely due to Trump's tariffs that were brought in earlier this year. But JLR says it's grateful to the government for delivering at speed a new UK-US trade deal, which gives us the confidence to invest $3.5 billion per annum to realise our strategy, which is delivering. Downing Street, on the other hand, says that whilst the news is disappointing, it's taken real action to support jobs and investment in the long term. It goes on to say it's been a difficult first half of year for the UK car industry, with job cuts at Ford and Nissan, as well as the closure of Vauxhall's iconic manufacturing plant in Luton. Lotus has been accused of considering moving production from its facility in Norfolk over to the US. The British sports car manufacturer insisted that it's continuing normal operations and there are no plans to close the factory. Here's the other new Subaru. It's called the Uncharted, and it's not going to be a crazy 4x4. Instead, it's going to be a mid-size electric SUV. This will probably sit beneath the Subaru Solterra, which is obviously a rebadged Toyota BZ4X. And it seems like they're probably going to borrow quite a bit from the Toyota CHR Plus or the BZ3X on this. Quite a few battery options. You can get up to 363 miles from a single charge, with the biggest one, which is on a par with the L-Rock and the Kia EV4 Fastback. 0-62 in 5 seconds, 1.5 ton towing capacity, and 10 to 80% should take half an hour thanks to 150 kilowatt maximum charging speed. No pricing on that at the moment, but it looks interesting. Here we go. Another new brand coming from China to the UK, the GAC Aeon 5 and the Aeon UT. No idea if I've said any of that correctly, are China's latest UK EV arrivals. And although these are fairly generic designs, the numbers behind them seem quite impressive, although they're based on China's CLTC testing cycle rather than WLTP. So I'm not going to quote any of those at the moment because they could well be a bit of a nonsense. The new MG4 EV could be sold alongside the existing model in the UK, which would be slightly odd. The new MG4 is compatible with semi-solid state batteries. I think in China it's going to have an LFP, at least initially, but they're saying when it finally comes to the UK, which could be a couple of years away yet, it could be sold as just another version of the MG4 alongside the existing one, which seems odd. Very odd, actually. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Renault will stick to the plan as it hits number 2 in Europe. Renault has no plans to fight Volkswagen for sales supremacy, despite huge growth in EV sales due to the new Renault 5. I think Renault's EV showing has been outstanding so far. I think the Megane was pretty decent. I think the Scenic's very good. And the Renault 5 obviously is going to get those mainstream sales. And they're probably looking at Volkswagen at the moment and seeing how risky it is to be the biggest player in the game. And the amount of infrastructure that sits behind it, the amount of risk there is if you have a bad month or year or quarter, and thinking, actually, we're really happy in our position. Also, look at the number of models they've got compared to VW. You know, VW have 3 or 4 different flavours of just about every car category, and the Renault offering's a bit more concise, which probably helps them keep a bit of a stronger profit margin, I would assume. Dacia's baby EV due in 12 months with a tiny £15,000 price. This will essentially be a replacement to the Spring, one would assume. And Spring's obviously manufactured in China, and this one would be manufactured in Europe to avoid all the Chinese tariffs. A suggestion there that it might have a little bit more design time spent on it than the Spring, dare I say. And I think if they make it slightly less compromised, give it a slightly better range, a little bit more performance, you know, they could be onto something with a really cheap EV that actually does tick a few of those boxes. For me, the Spring just doesn't quite, certainly not at its price point. Although, if you watch my latest new car discounts video, you'll see that that price point's kind of gone out the window already. Vegans and cows rejoice. Renault signs PETA deal to cut leather from cars. They don't have leather in the UK cars at the moment. A lot of brands now say leather, but it's not. You know, it's vegan leather, it's synthetic leather. There's also some weird rule around what you're actually allowed to call leather, and it's much more lenient than you might think. PETA are calling this Renault's choice to use cruelty-free materials, but lots of cars now are using synthetic products, and often you can't really tell the difference unless you're looking at a synthetic leather versus some ultra luxurious Napa leather, for example. Rollover diesel EVs are now doing the big mileage in the UK. The average UK electric car now covers more than 10,000 miles a year, a similar amount to the average diesel. Electric cars now account for more than 1 in 20 miles driven in the UK. New data has also shown that an average EV is now covering almost the same distance annually as its diesel counterpart, and more than the average petrol car. And that's really because lots of company fleets have now electrified. Obviously, there are big tax benefits to the company and to the individual drivers to do that. And people are finding that actually now cars have got much bigger range, they charge much more quickly, there's a lot more charging infrastructure around, and it's less of an issue than it was, say, 3 years ago. And I think that will only continue to develop, really. Hope you've enjoyed this one, folks. Please subscribe to the channel. Please give it a thumbs up. Please tell your friends and come back for more. See you on the next one. Huge thanks to all my channel members for your continued support. I really do appreciate it.